Hello, I'm Mike Levin, and we're in the middle of the Gropy project, and we're looking at the output from the program here. And there's two things that occur to me. The first is that when none does occur, it should not have single ticks around it. Second is that none should not be occurring on status. I'm looking for it to be on param1, which is required, but I have everything filled in. So I'm going to get rid of hello here and rerun it, and we should see a none get filled in for param1 on the Google spreadsheet portion of it. And this is Google spreadsheet, and here's param1, and there's none. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the nones when a default value is provided, and that's falling off the end of this loop here. So it looks through the row that was provided, and if it finds a match, it returns the value in that position in the row. But it doesn't have to be that way, because if it gets off the end of that loop, it still hasn't returned a value. That's why none is appearing. But if it has a default arg val, so if def arg val colon return def arg val. Simple as that. We'll run it again. And after this, we should get rid of the single tick marks around the nones for the ones that remain. Yeah. Okay, this is good. So let's see. The ones that remain is the one that I'm expecting, this guy here, which is this guy here. And single tick marks are not always what's called for. So we're going to take them out of here, and that is what comes back from argval. So it's in the get argval, but we have to return single ticks around the value. But it's around everything except for none. So there's kind of two things we can do here. We can return it every time here, although it's not going to ever be the case there. If def argval, return that, else, oh wait, we need the single tick marks. Return, you've got to put those single tick marks around it. I'm going to handle that with a function because it's going to be a little unusual. Just having taken the single tick marks out, it's worth looking at the output. It's going to be something, but it's not going to be something we could actually execute, because Python is going to read these as variables and not as literals. So instead of polluting all that logic up in there, I'm going to do def add adq, add quotes, and we'll say eval return there's our, oh, actually we want to return, here's our double quotes, single quotes, %s, percent, and eval. And let's see how that works now. This is our way of putting the quotes back in, but having a place to put logic if we need it. This is actually kind of fundamental to the system, because there's so many things that might end up being built as the function invocation to execute, that it's good to isolate those points that are going to potentially have complexity. So this just comes back with all the quotes now the way we expect it. And the quote is, let's see, param1. Oh yeah, the quote is still around none. Now there's going to be an easy way to test if that is because of something that's getting returned here, but I don't actually think it is. I think that's because it's potentially falling off the end here. I'm going to test that by doing an else return foo. And if we see foo show up now as the param1 value, then we know we're catching it by falling off the end. But no, param1 is still equal to none with a single quotes around it. So we're going to test now if it's actually because of this. So if aval equals none, return none. Else return what you got with your quotes around it. Okay, and there we go. None with no quotes around it. And that also means we have a situation where we kind of have to detect none. And I might want to do that at a different point than I'm currently doing. Doesn't fall off the end. That means it's being returned either in here as a none or here. And that's pretty easy to test. So we know it's not falling off the end, so this has no use. So I can actually edit this out and see if none comes back correctly or not. Okay, none gets filled in for everything that doesn't have a default value, including param1. So we definitely need this in here. So that's evaluating to true, even though there's not a default arg val. I actually want to print def arg val. In fact, yeah, let's try it like that initially. That's not enough to tell me. I need to spot it. Gotcha. Might even get an error if they're data types that can't be appended. Okay, there's a bunch of gotchas. The one we're interested in is the one that's responsible for, oh, look at that, none. It's only catching okay, so it's not catching on param1. So param1 is slipping through, but the quotes are exactly what they should be at this point. I'll pause. Okay, mystery explained. Let's get rid of that. And here we are only going to return a value if there is a value to return. If a row callbacks, because it might be carrying a none value. So the columns match the function. The column matches the function name, but the contents of the cell it's looking at is still empty. So what we should see now is the quotes from around param1 equals none being removed because it's not going to get caught and it's going to fall off the end. There it is. Okay. So I believe this catches almost every situation, except there is now the falling off the end case, which is where we need to put focus. So now we can do else and get back that return foo. And the only thing that should be giving us problems now is when there is a none value that isn't found in the row that's being processed and doesn't have a default value. So there it is, param1 equals foo. That's our special handling. We can actually exit out of the function here, but I'll just, let's see. Well, we got to handle that. That's the special handling. And that'll be in the next video. So this was a really good example of a for loop scanning a row to find a match, encountering an issue where even when a match was found, the cell contents could still be empty, and then we return with the double tick marks around it. And we have a way to insert the double tick marks. So this leaves an opening in case we wanted to handle numeric values. This little bit of eval me here doesn't always put the tick marks around it, because sometimes when you build a function to a function invocation, you want to have numerical values. Typically we won't. Typically we'll want the tick marks around it, but none is an exception. We had to handle that exception, and so this is how we're handling it. And it gives us a nice wedge for later on if other situations come up. So thanks for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.